Danite Radio.
Welcome to the Counter Revolution.
Take a break and go get some water here in the middle. Did we talk about Jace graduating nursing school then?
Yeah. No.
Oh.
Congratulations. Jace graduated nursing school. This is Shadow. That's Jace. This is Rocky.
I realize we don't do this very much, but yeah. He just said our names, so that's good.
That's plenty.
I think it probably should go Rocky Shadow Jaso or Rocky J Shadow. As long as my name's first, I don't care.
I'll go last. That's fine.
Just suit yourself, too. Whatever's important
We're
to you.
Shadow Jason Rock Dog.
Whatever's important to you. Welcome back.
We're it's weekends like these that we got into podcasting, folks. So we are we're gonna call out some communists. We're gonna speak out against an evil ideology today, and we're gonna jump right into it. Did you have a plan on how to start? Because I did.
Yeah, you go for it then. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how I wanted to start, so go for it.
There is a story of a man named Falando Castile. Castile, maybe. I don't know.
Tell us about Falando.
For all you Googlers out there, Philando, Castile. But it could be Castile. Falando Castile is a African-American gentleman. A security guard. From what I can tell, a somewhat family man. And a concealed carry permit holder.
Where's he from?
Minnesota.
Good question. Is he from Minnesota?
That's where it happened.
Oh, yeah. Minnesota.
Oh, that perfect.
It is perfect. It fits a seeming narrative that we've been hearing, right? That black men are killed by white police officers.
Tell us about Falando. What happened?
Falando Castile was in his car. His brake lights were out. And this is all on dash cam video. You can look it up. He was in his car. His brake lights were out. He gets pulled over. A half Hispanic cop walks up to the window, very calmly tells him, "Hey, man, you don't have any brake lights. That's why I pulled you over." And a polite voice is responding to him, who is Falando Castile. Falando, about 10 seconds into the conversation, as a good concealed carry permit holder is supposed to do, tells the officer, "I have a weapon in the car."
I have a weapon and a concealed carry permit.
He doesn't say concealed carry permit, but he does say he has a weapon. And he's very calm. And then I don't see what happens, but from judging by the cop's reaction, I think he reaches for the weapon in order to show the cop. The cop says, "Don't reach for it," and escalates very quickly. Falando says, "Well, I was just going to." "Don't reach for it." Again. "Well, I was just going to." "Don't reach for it." Cop draws weapon, shoots like 7 times into the car, killing Falando Castile. Soon after, it's a devastating video to watch. It's very hard to watch, but if you want to see it, you can Google it. A few seconds after, a 4-year-old girl pops out of the back seat. The officer's partner grabs the girl and gets her out of there. The cop's still screaming. He's freaking out at this point. The cop is obviously not that well trained and not that comfortable with firearms. I know it sounds weird that a cop wouldn't be comfortable with firearms, but I have heard stories of cops being on the force for 3 months, going to their neighbor, the soldier, and asking them how to clean the weapon. Meaning he's not that familiar with guns. If you don't know how to clean a weapon, you're not that comfortable with weapons. And then you hear the girlfriend. The girlfriend instantly starts a Facebook Live feed.
The girlfriend is also in the car?
Yeah. So this man is killed for having a legal weapon. And he's black. The way the cop reacted so irrationally, some could almost say that maybe he was scared of the man's race the second the man told him he had a gun. Because in my mind, if a man calmly tells you, I have a gun, and then slowly reaches to pull it out, you're not scared he's going to shoot you with it. He's given away the element of surprise, right? So I can see wanting to control the weapon coming out, saying, don't reach for it, I will reach for it. And then when he reaches for it anyways, have your hand in the car to grab the gun. But I'm not trained like a cop, apparently, because this cop just shot the guy 7 times. And then the cop gets, I don't know if he got fired, I'm pretty sure he did, and charged with manslaughter. Charges which he got off on.
Yeah, he got acquitted on all counts.
So, again, fitting the narrative that seems to be coming down this weekend from, who's the guy that got killed?
George Floyd.
George Floyd.
Or is it Floyd George?
George Floyd.
George Floyd.
So what's the difference? However, there were protests in this because of this, but they were only protests. They were not riots. They were only protests. So where's the rage over this black man who got killed? If you're such a civil rights fighter and warrior that you're burning cars in Salt Lake City, why not burn cars over this guy and not? Why not burn cars over Falando when you're willing to burn them over George Floyd? Anyone have an answer?
Because nobody told them to.
Because nobody told them to. Okay, I can live with that. That's a little bit of conjecture, but sure. Here's what I see in my view. From my point of view, this is why we did this, to explain modern events from 2 blue-collar Latter-day Saint gentlemen's point of view, or 3 in this case. Having read the Gulag Archipelago, a reoccurring theme in that book is the stature of criminals as a hero to the proletariat. The proletariat is the working man. The proletariat is who the communists rode to power. And they always placed criminals as heroes in their society. A, because they only robbed from the bourgeoisie, the upper middle class and the lower upper class. And they always went against the grain of bourgeoisie values. Right? So what kind of revolution are you fomenting when you riot over George Floyd, a criminal who was killed undeservedly? Sure, 100%. The guy did not deserve to die. 100%. But he was a criminal, and he got in a tussle with cops. He was committing a criminal act when he had a counterfeit $20 bill. And maybe he didn't know. I don't know. But he was committing a criminal act. Ignorance is no excuse for the law. Go to any court, they'll tell you that. When there is another man named Falando who was law-abiding and a family man, and I don't know if George was a family man, I don't know. And an all-around good dude who did not break any laws. The only law he broke was a traffic infraction that I think I made clear last time are bullcrap anyways. Shouldn't be there. Why not riot over this guy who has a completely clean nose in the situation that he was in and gets killed and is a black man? Why not riot over him if you're such a civil rights advocate? And instead of George Floyd, a criminal. Unless you are pushing the communist narrative that the criminal is a friend to the proletariat.
Then the criminal is the hero of the proletariat.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In the Gulag Archipelago, again, we've talked about it before, but it is a first-hand account of life in Gulag in the Soviet Union. And the 58s were put in prison. The 58s were political prisoners. They were put in prison right next to criminals, and criminals were used to punish the 58s. The criminals would rob from the 58s. The criminals would kill the 58s. The criminals would beat up the 58s. The criminals would rape the 58s. And they were the criminals ran the prisons. The guards didn't touch the criminals. The guards had nothing to do with the criminals. And they turned a blind eye anytime a criminal attacked a 58. And they turned a blind eye anytime a criminal attacked a guard. But again, this was pushing the narrative that the criminal is better than any capitalist, because a capitalist robs the people and a criminal only robs the capitalist. And he goes against bourgeois values. So, that's my only thing with this whole thing. Riot away over... I am a Second Amendment guy. We should have rioted when this guy got killed doing what he was supposed to do according to the concealed carry permit that he held. I think concealed carry permits are bullcrap. This shows you right there that we should not have concealed carry permits anyways. He shouldn't have to tell a cop he has a weapon. As long as he doesn't draw the weapon on the cop, just like as long as he doesn't draw the weapon on somebody else, why does it matter if he has a concealed carry permit? He should not have to carry that. And he should not have to tell a cop, of all people, who obviously aren't much better than any of us as far as panicking goes, why should he have to? So riot over that. If you're about freedom, if your revolution is a freedom-loving revolution, yeah, let's get out and burn some cop cars over that, for sure. But you're not. Your revolution is an actual revolution. What I'm talking about would be a counter-revolution, but the original revolution was against freedom. The war in heaven was fought against freedom. I can only think of maybe two, but one for sure, revolution that even ended in more freedom rather than less freedom. At least violent revolutions. Typically, the peaceful revolutions are the revolutions that end in more freedom. Martin Luther King, for example. Gandhi, for example. And I don't come down against violence. It has its place. Anyone who says that violence solves nothing is an idiot. For example, violence created the British Empire, which pushed British values all over the world. India used to burn widows with husbands who died because they didn't have British values. The British Empire came and put an end to things like that. The British Empire was not perfect by any means, but guess what? Violence caused the United States to break away from the British Empire and create the freest country in the world. The freest country in the world where the freest, most affluent black people on the planet live. If you're a black person in this country, you've got it better than black people anywhere in the world. Name me a place where a black person has it better. I dare you. And I bet you're wrong.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even Muhammad Ali went to Africa to fight somebody, came back, a reporter said, "What'd you think of Africa?" And he said, I'm kind of wish my great-great-granddaddy came here as a slave because I got it way better than those guys over there. I'm not saying slavery was good, but you've got it good in this country if you're a black person in this country. So,
and that's not to say that things can't be better. It's not a perfect system by any means. We're not saying, don't protest, don't fight for your freedoms. That's exactly what we're saying to do. Fight for your freedoms, but fight for freedom, not for what you're being told to fight for. What?
Yeah, I used to be an anarchist. I read a couple books and realized that was stupid, but I also know this. I side with anarchy. I'd rather have more freedom than less freedom. I'd rather have too much than too little. However, they're the stupidest revolutionaries on the planet because they join these communist revolutions because they want to see the world burn, and guess where they end up? Gulag with the rest of the freaking 58s. Because they're morons. I don't know what it is about anarchists, but they're retarded. They join these stupid revolutions that just end them in freaking gulag every time. They did the same thing with fascists in Germany. So, I'm all about fighting for freedom. I get it, I think that the founding fathers would be rolling in their graves if they knew that this Falando fella got shot because he was carrying a weapon with a permit that I think they think was stupid.
That they would also disapprove of.
And he got shot for it because one cop panicked. So, I get it. I'm not. I hesitate always to come down against violence, but I have seen. We have seen as a people, peaceful protests that work. Martin Luther King's daughter was walking in I think it was the Million Man March. I'm not sure what march it was. They were marching. The man next to her got hit with a billy club in the stomach. Martin Luther King's daughter reaches over to catch the man. Bam! Arrested. Because she stepped out of line. She went home. Martin Luther King tore her a new one. No, that's not how we do it. You stay in line. You let that man fall and you stay in line. We do not get arrested. He was pissed at her for getting arrested for catching her friend who just got blasted with a billy club. That is how...
Because Martin Luther King had a vision.
That is how civil rights came about. That's it. That's how civil rights came about. Not through rioting. But things happen through rioting. I mean, the revolution came about because of violence. I get it. I'm not an anti-violence guy by any means.
The Boston Tea Party, you could re-describe it as a riot.
For sure. That's exactly what it was.
It's just a change of terminology. It was absolutely a riot.
However, if you are supporting rioting for a criminal, you need to look at your revolution because it's the wrong kind of revolution. It will bite you in the butt. This is what communists do. And this is conjecture, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if a man, I don't know, a billionaire, avowed communist, anti-fascist, which sounds really good, but it always ends up being a communist. His name happens to be George Soros. I wouldn't be surprised at all if George Soros or a George Soros-funded group paid a bunch of people to go, hey, let's turn these protests into something a little bit darker, a little bit more chaotic. And then, but he didn't do that for the man who was legally carrying a weapon. Interesting. Wonder why he wouldn't want to riot over that guy. And then, at the same time, George Soros donates money to the police unions that will probably get the cop who killed George Floyd off through their lawyers, because when the revolution happens and they need to start putting people in gulag, he needs a police state in order to do so.
The funny thing actually about that, the police union that those cops were a part of put out a statement telling people not to jump to conclusions.
Yeah. Interesting.
Odd.
Who'd have thunk? But this is just conjecture, folks. This
you have to, in order to have a communist state, you have to protect the criminal police.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Like, there are good police officers out there. We're not anti-cop either. We've said that before 100 million times.
People.
We're anti-bad cop.
Look, Minneapolis PD, stop paying your union dues if they get this piece of shit off because he's making you look bad. Sorry about the swear word, folks. But seriously, this guy makes you all look bad. This guy makes guys like me, law-abiding citizens, want to riot with the rest of the freaking anarchists. You look like the police state. You are not preventing a police state. Trust me, officers, if you're a good cop, a police state is just as bad for you as it is for anyone else. If nothing else, you'll have to go along to get along, and you'll do things that violate your conscience. And that's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you're in a gulag next to me. That's how it goes, gentlemen. A police state is just as bad for you. And the way to fight a police state, end the cops, call out the cops who are willing to enforce a police state, who have no conscience. And I'm not saying that this guy should be rounded up. I'm not saying rioters should go to his house and kill him. No. What I'm saying is he needs to go to prison. He needs to stay off the force. And that's the thing. If he gets off, guess what he does? He goes back on the force with back pay. And not only back pay, but back pay that if he would have gotten a promotion in the year and a half that he was at trial, they'd give him the pay for that too. And he'll get the promotion. He'll go back at a higher rank. That's how these cop unions work. So Go ahead.
Is that justice? Like,
No.
we have to ask, are we allowing justice to be done?
Yeah.
When these things happen in our country?
And I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm not saying there's a puppet master pulling the strings. But if all this happens the way I'm saying it will probably happen, isn't it a little suspicious? Isn't it a little odd that there's one guy who could make this happen and has been known to do things like this? Look at what your cause is supporting. Are you supporting a criminal? If you are supporting a criminal, you're putting him ahead of the you're turning him into a hero for the proletariat, and you are having a communist revolution. And it will probably end you in Gulag. The most violent revolutionaries from the Red Revolution or from the Bolshevik Revolution ended up in Gulag because they know, these guys will turn on a government if they see something unfair, so we got to get rid of them. So choose your revolution wisely. Let's maybe make it a counter-revolution.
Who else would end up in a gulag? If it comes down to that, I'm going.
Oh, for sure.
You're going.
Oh, yeah.
Jace, you're probably going.
Just by what we put on the...
Just by what we've put on the internet, even though very few people listen to it, just because of what we said and what we believe, we'll all three go to gulag. No doubt. No doubt. Sure. Not only that, they'll just start rounding people up off church lists. Yep. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints keeps a list of every member they have in the United States. If it turns into every member they have in the world, but in the United States specifically, because that's where we live, if it turns into a communist revolution, they're going to go through those lists and start rounding up church leaders.
They'll start with leaders, bishops. Bishops who won't cow down and support the communist state over the pulpit.
I would not be surprised if they went down lists of members who hold temple recommends, because it's very clear that they support they're a huge part of their religion. The Communist Manifesto says all religion has to be done away with in order for communism to succeed. All morality has to be done away with in order for communism to succeed. Absolute morality cannot exist in place with communism. That's all this is. That communism is absolutely the worst thing that can happen if you're a God-fearing person, because you're the first person to go to a gulag. You're the first person to get locked away and sent to Siberia. It wouldn't be Siberia here. It'd be somewhere else.
Be Alaska.
Oklahoma, maybe.
Go
Sorry.
Go ask. Go ask these protesters, do you believe in absolute morality? Nah, they don't. I guarantee it.
The rioters don't?
Yeah.
I don't think most of them know what they believe in.
Yeah, sure. A lot. Yeah, there were some funny interviews going on up there, but there was one chick that she was like, yeah, I'm not here for violence. I just want to protest. I feel like we need to be supporting these people. And the protester or the reporter's like, you know that there was an 8 o'clock curfew enforced, put out by the governor? And she's like, oh no, really? It's 8:02. What's going to happen to all these people out here? She's like, thanks for telling me. She walks off, goes home. I was like, oh, you're awesome. You're awesome. Retard. So, look, man, that's what I have to say. I've been seeing a lot of support for these protests, a lot of, and you're right. I think that we need to work on what our cops do. I would imagine that the cop who killed George Floyd was a worse man than George Floyd.
Oh, you want to talk about that guy,
he
bro?
Sounds like
you want to talk about that animal.
I get it. There you go. So
he has been involved in 3 different police shootings before this one.
Mm-hmm.
All of which had a death.
Mm-hmm. All of which had a death and are appalling. Things like kicked in a bathroom door in a domestic disturbance case and shot a man in his bathtub 3 times.
Nice.
Shot him in the stomach. The man lived. The cop. What do you think happened to him? Goes to trial. Nothing happens. I'm sure it was policemen's union's lawyers that got him. Got off,
100%.
reinstated, stays a cop. And the man who got shot said, no doubt in my mind, if he goes back on the force, there will be another incident. I don't doubt it for a second, because he's an animal. The man is a killer.
Okay, police, that's your job right there. I'm seeing all these Facebook posts like, I'm not the bad cop here. I'm not like these other cops. Stop lumping me in with them. Look, man, your silence is the same as doing it yourself. You've got to call these guys out. You know they're monsters. You know these guys are monsters. You got to call them out.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's scary. I wouldn't want to do it either. I don't envy you. Guess what? I'm not going to be a cop for that reason, because I wouldn't want to have to deal with having ratted out another cop and then worrying about if the guy behind me is going to shoot me in the back for it. I get it, man. But you have to do it. If you don't want to be lumped in with these guys, quit the force or call them out. Those are your two choices. Otherwise, you're all the same. If you go along to get along, you're the same.
Indeed. If you go along to get along, you're the same. That applies to all of us. It really does.
100%, for sure. And I get it. I've been that guy. I've been complacent in things that I don't, that I'm not proud of, you know. And I've cooperated with police at times when I look back I shouldn't have. You know, I'm not perfect by any means, but we have to get better as a people. We have to change the way we think. We have to recognize that even these riots going on in Salt Lake, it's not the cops' job to defend our property. It's their job to prosecute crimes. They can arrest people, sure, but when a riot comes to my neighborhood, I don't want the cops there. I want to freaking have it out with these rioters. You know? It's my job to protect my property and my family. And I'm prepared to do so. They keep threatening to come to the suburbs. I'm sad that I live so far from the city that I don't get to protect my country, my house from them. If they come to my dad's house, which is a lot closer, I might go help him out. Because that's my job, is to protect my family. It's not the cop's job. The cop's job is to prosecute crimes. They say protect and serve. That's not your job. Your job, yeah, sure, you can serve, but your job is to prosecute crimes, to bring justice, not to protect. Because it would be impossible to ask you to protect. Unless we post a cop in every front yard in a little booth, you can't protect us. It's my natural right and job to protect myself and my family.
We talked about this last week. A cop cannot be there in time to protect your family. When everything hits the fan, a cop will not be there in time to protect your family. It is your responsibility to protect your property and your family. That is your responsibility and your duty as an American citizen.
And as it's your God-given right. And if you don't believe in God, it's your natural right. Why are men so much bigger and stronger than women? Because they're supposed to be the protectors. That's it. Fortunately, this day and age, we have guns that can equalize that natural difference. But I think a man is a lot more suited to kill than a woman is as well, psychologically. But what do I know? Maybe I'm just a freaking chauvinist. Yeah.
Misogynist. It is your responsibility to protect yourself and your family.
100%. So look at that. Look at what this riot is doing again for an overall puppet master. And let's say it's not George Soros. Maybe the overall puppet master is Satan. I don't know.
And if you want to assign it to somebody else, Amazon, Google, these companies that benefit from riots that hurt small businesses. Small businesses that have been out of business for 3 months. Small businesses that were set to open this weekend.
In Minnesota, they are burning black people's businesses. They're ruining black people's lives. You call this, is this a civil rights movement by ruining black people's businesses and destroying their livelihoods? No.
Malcolm X would be rolling in his grave.
It's not. And so, what, I was going somewhere. What was I talking about before you so rudely?
Maybe it's Satan.
Oh yeah, maybe it's Satan. Either way, look how they benefit. The riots happen. These militaristic cops come and save the day, and all the people are like, good thing we had those cops dressed like military people with big sticks and guns to keep these bad boys down, right? It doesn't benefit any freedom-loving person to have the police there protecting the people with their... Because guess what? I can buy all the stuff the cop has. all the way down to rubber bullet guns and protect my own city. But it goes back to last week's topic, we've grown too accustomed to the government stepping in and saving us. We are not a freedom-loving people. We're a nanny state-loving people. And that's all there is to it.
We want to be babysat. We want to be comfortable.
The Founding Fathers did not prohibit the military from operating on U.S. soil only to have the police rise up and do it. And you can make an argument that George Washington crushed Shays' Rebellion, but he raised a militia to do it. It wasn't like it was a full-time thing. The militia dissolved when he was done.
It was militiamen who believed in the Constitution.
We can clash. We can clash over that idea if you want to, but I still think I'm right. I still agree with me.
Oh, classic.
What about you, Jace? You have any thoughts on this, or did you have something? Or
I don't have anything real deep. Biggest thing out of all this is George Floyd did not deserve to die. He was tortured to death, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody should be choked out and essentially suffocated by someone's knee. Beyond that, the riots and everything surrounding it, they don't make any sense. There's no real motive behind it. It's just wasted energy at this point. Nothing's happening
unless
because
the
of
motive
riots.
is chaos and building the police state.
Exactly. They're not working towards police reform.
Mm-hmm.
By any means.
It's not anger that's directed anywhere.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Definitely not working towards police reform. It's not doing anything.
That's what needs to come about from these sorts of situations. All of these come down to the same thing. The cops are scared of the people, and something needs to happen.
Yep.
So let's talk about that. Where could we direct that anger? The anger over what's happening.
Yeah. Call your congressman. Keep your protest peaceful. When you notice a rioter getting out of line, looking like he's inciting violence, maybe turn your anger on that guy. Be violent towards him. Look, we don't do that. That's not our cause. Beat him up. Take him to the cops. Hey man, this guy's fomenting violence. That's not what we want. And that's, a little radish, maybe. But are we keeping things peaceful or not?
Yeah.
What's your goal? What's the end goal?
What's your goal? And
does radishness matter if your end goal is more freedom?
Go ahead and riot over a non-criminal getting killed. They shot that black man to death in front of his 4-year-old daughter and his girlfriend. That 4-year-old girl gets to have memories of her dad getting shot 7 times by some cop.
For the rest of her life.
I'm talking about Falando now.
Yeah.
Where were the riots? Where were the riots? Where was the righteous anger? And don't riot, don't burn down businesses, but burn police cars. We all pay for those anyways. Burn that crap down, man.
Avoid don't attack private enterprises. Go after the public stuff, please.
Go after the stuff you pay for with your taxes anyways.
Don't ruin some guy's life. He didn't know what he was doing to buy a business.
Yeah. Freaking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Burning down private businesses of your fellow African Americans. You're not fomenting civil rights. You are fomenting communist revolution.
To that end, the best suggestion I've heard for what to do: get registered to vote and participate in local elections. If your prosecutor in your town is not prosecuting murderous cops, get a new prosecutor.
For sure.
Vote.
Rise against that guy. Shout out against him. Talk about it.
Utilize your civil rights and civil liberties. Vote people in who are going to bring about change.
Stop voting in politicians that support police officers' unions. A monopoly on labor is a monopoly on labor, whether it's police labor or any labor. Stop supporting these people. And if your congressman or senator is saying, "Oh, I understand that they're mad. They're justified in what they're doing," If they're participating in the subtle racism of low expectations, get them out of there. Get them out of there. If they're supporting riots over criminal action, get them out of there. And look, I'm all about decriminalizing everything. But using fake money has been a crime since the Bible. You can't do it. Don't use fake money. Don't steal from people. These are obvious crimes. Don't support people who do these crimes.
And protest peacefully.
Protest peacefully. That's right.
Indeed. Anything else, boys?
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Oh, it's shorter than I thought it'd be.
What is it at?
We're at 35 minutes.
I was concise. I've been
working through that.
I've been working it out.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot going on, folks. In conclusion, before we close out, again, George Floyd is a travesty. It is a tragedy, absolutely. In every sense of the word. Everything that was done to him was terrible. That should not be happening. In any metric, no matter how you look at the situation, it should not have happened that way. That is terrible. There are people that should have stepped in. There were 3 other cops there that should have stepped in and stopped it. And all of them stood by and watched while that man was murdered. Tortured to death. There were bystanders watching, pleading with the cops to stop. You're killing him. You're going to kill him. George Floyd himself, kneeling on the ground. I can't breathe. You're going to kill me. And this is a pattern. This is something that we've seen before. It should not be happening. We can't emphasize that enough. But we need direction with our anger. It needs to be going somewhere to bring about change, not just the senseless burning of your neighbor's buildings, especially in Salt Lake City, where the cops, the likelihood of a cop killing somebody is very low considered to a lot of places. The crime rate here is low. The likelihood of you getting killed by a cop is a lot lower. The reaction in Salt Lake City should not be, we're going to burn our city down. That is not the way to handle that.
If you are burning down private enterprise, small businesses, bourgeois businesses, if you are burning those down to protect or to show outrage over the killing of a criminal, you are fomenting communist revolution. You are putting that criminal above the private sector. Now, if you burn down a criminal's cop car who killed a criminal, a far lesser criminal than said criminal with the cop car, then you're putting freedom first. I get it. Burn that cop car down. But when you start burning businesses and sowing chaos without a directive or a motive or any sort of which way to it, you're doing it wrong. You are not fomenting freedom. And I don't think you need to burn police vehicles down. Did you see what the police force did in Florida? Mob shows up at the police station. Police walk out. Every cop hits his knees. They start praying for forgiveness from the Lord and praying for the country. Next thing you know, rioters hit their knees, praying for forgiveness for the country.
I can't remember which state it was.
Follow that example.
Same thing. Police sheriff walks out, pulls his riot helmet off, and says, "Look, we're with you. What can we do to help?" They say, "Walk with us." And this police sheriff says, "All right," walks out into the crowd, puts his arm around a man, and they walk together.
I'm not anti-violence, but I don't think it's necessary in this case.
Agreed.
Especially where there are avenues. And that's another thing. People, stop fighting cops. There are tons of lawyers out there who want to pro bono your case against corrupt cops. Let them take you in. Let them take you in. If the arrest is bad, there are lawyers who will sue for you. It'll make you a lot more money, and you won't get your neck knelt on until you die. Stop fighting cops. What are you doing? Until there is no other alternative to fight corruption in this country, stop fighting cops. And then when it's time that there's no more alternative to fight corrupt cops, call me up and we'll go fight them together. 100%. But we have alternatives, folks. You don't have money for a lawyer? I guarantee you there are activist lawyers. There are tons of them who want to sue cops.
Because they see the injustice and they've taken the steps to make it happen.
Utilize these routes. Stop fighting cops. It gets you nowhere except for maybe killed or tasered or the crap kicked out of you or bit by a German shepherd. Stop it. Stop it. It's stupid. I don't care how tough you are. There's 40 of them. They have a license to kill. They all are armed to the teeth. Stop fighting them. Do it through the courts. You can still do it. I'm sorry I'm yelling into the microphone, but are you kidding me? It's the most retarded thing you can ever do. How do you not see this? Like, oh, this guy's got a gun and a license to kill me. I'm going to go fight him without anything? Are you retarded?
And the resources to get off for it.
Yeah.
The resources to have all the charges dropped.
For killing you. They never do. Stop fighting them.
Yeah. Stop fighting them.
And I know that's not right. I get it. It's not right that they can just kill you because you fight them. But it's not right that resisting arrest is a crime. It's not right. I get it.
But you fight the system from where you're at. And the system that we have made, the nanny state that we've created, that's where we have to fight from.
You dying and people rioting for your death only creates a stronger police state. Imagine that. Now all the bourgeois are like, oh, I'm glad these militaristic cops are here to protect our city. Thank you, officer, for protecting me for doing my job for me. You're the man. And guess what? The average Latter-day Saint is the worst about it.
You're not wrong.
That's all I have to say.
This was a very long closer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, in conclusion, Rocky's like,
I'm glad we
kill cops!
I'm glad we got to it. No, that's
or
not
don't
what I'm
fight
saying.
cops.
Don't
Sorry.
fight cops. They'll kill you. I don't want to kill cops. I want police reform and look for your strange bedfellows. Look at Kanye's wife, Kim Kardashian. All about prison reform. She's fixing things. I think she's a wackadoo. And I don't agree with her on anything except for maybe prison reform.
Because she makes it happen.
Guess who else agrees with her? Donald J. Trump, because he happens to be helping her in this fight. Nobody looks at that. Nobody looks at that. That's the most liberal cause you can ever think of. And liberals, can they give Donald J. Trump a freaking chance on that? No. Orange man bad. I don't care if he's doing things I agree with. Orange man bad. That's the same stupid-ass mentality that gets stupid people killed by cops. Blue man bad. Guess I'll fight him. Blue man can kill you, retard. What are you doing? Are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
Let's give Orange Man the benefit of the doubt when he makes good decisions, which I think he's made a lot more good decisions than most people. But, come on, folks. What are you doing?
We'll put a disclaimer. Check your volume at the end.
Life is complex. There are good cops and there are bad cops. We can't see it. We can't see it in black and white. Not all cops are bad and not all cops are good, but we have to root out the bad. Not all Donald Trump's decisions are good, but they're not all bad. We have to support the good and root out the bad, just like the cops. Look, officer, I'll do anything I can. I will tell all 46 people that listen to this podcast that you're a good man if you stand up for the rights of people. If you stand against corruptness and you stand against murderous cops, come on my podcast and let's tell all 46 people to listen to it.
Preach. Preach, brother.
I'll even start a GoFundMe if you get fired. We'll raise you $1 million. I won't stop until a GoFundMe raises you $1 million if you get fired for it. But life is too complex to see it in black and white, folks.
Indeed. Indeed. Register to vote. Buy a gun. Don't fight cops.
Protect your family. Don't fight cops. It's stupid. It's so stupid. And guess what? You go to the lawyer. He's going to. This is the system we have. He's going to sue. You're going to get a ton of taxpayer money, and the cop will keep his job and live to fight another day. But it is the system we have.
They will settle out of court.
It's better than you being killed. That's all there is to it. And if you're a true ideologue, you don't have to settle out of court. You could take it all the way. You might not get any money, but who cares? It's your ideology. Are you fighting this for freedom or are you fighting it for money? And I don't care either way. Sue them. Sue, 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 sue. I think every municipal police department should be broke. No one should ever want to insure a municipal police department because they get sued so often. It should be so expensive. If we sued every cop that barely stepped out of line, municipalities wouldn't be able to afford police departments. They'd have to go in together, and the sheriffs would be the police department. And guess who the best cops are as far as defending freedom, typically?
County sheriffs.
Sheriffs.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
So
that is just the truth.
What are we doing, folks? What are we doing? Stop resisting arrest. There are better ways to fight this. We can overload the system. Fight every traffic ticket you get. And I'm not great at this. I get it. It's time consuming. It takes forever. And they're probably going to hit you with a harder fine if you do it. But if we're jamming up the system, if we're costing them more money than they're fining us for, they'll have to change something. There are peaceful ways to do this.
They just take more work.
So stop fighting the man with a gun and a license to kill you. My gosh. Can I emphasize it enough? It's retarded. It's retarded. All you have to do is turn around, put your hands behind your back, and let the lawyers do the work. You don't have to get killed. Sorry, I'm yelling again.
I think we better close out before the vein in Rocky's neck bursts.
Don't let me get back onto this.
Alrighty, folks. I'm Shadow.
I'm Jace.
I'm Rock Dog.
Y'all have a blessed week.